What's going on? Welcome to the 2021 edition of the Off the Schneid preview series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their roster, schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time on the channel, hit that subscribe button, and if you like what you hear, go ahead and smash that like button as well. Don't forget to check the description for links for the Off the Schneid social media and interact with me directly. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com, as all roster and depth chart graphics are straight off their site. If you've never been, go check them out immediately. I use their site for all NFL, fantasy, and betting purposes, and there's a link in the description for their site. Again, do me a huge favor and hit that like and subscribe button, but enough of that, let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. All right, we're taking a look at the Chicago Bears. I feel like I'm going to take some heat for this one, so let's strap in and get ready for it. We'll start at quarterback like we always do. Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Justin Fields are all there. Obviously, Justin Fields, they traded up for and drafted out of Ohio State. What was it, 12th, 11th, 12th overall? 11th overall, I think. Either way, not super concerned about the quarterback position outside of Justin Fields, if I'm being honest. The Bears allowed 36 sacks last year. A fair amount of turnover on the offensive line this season. I think that number goes up with Andy Dalton and or Nick Foles playing football for this team. I think that number potentially goes down, or at the worst, it stays the same with Justin Fields. For me, I don't see any point in playing Andy Dalton or Nick Foles whatsoever. I think you start week one with Justin Fields and you roll with them, you get them that experience. I believe it's going to be a bit of a tough year for the Bears. I just do not think that either, and I'm a Bengals fan. I love Andy Dalton, I just do not think that Andy Dalton and or Nick Foles give this team a better shot to win football games than Justin Fields does this year. I really do not. And you cannot convince me of that. And to be honest with you, I don't particularly believe Matt Nagy when he says that Andy Dalton's a starter. I think that if that does happen, he's absolutely out as head coach of this team. Absolutely. I think that the backlash will just be way too much. Either way, honestly, I think Matt Nagy's out as coach of the Bears next season. I already called my shot on the Buccaneers episode. Go watch that if you would like. I think that Todd Bowles is going to be the head coach of the Chicago Bears next season. I think he deserves another shot. I think it's a good fit. I think it makes tons of sense. And I just think Matt Nagy's going to be out. That's what I think. So there you go. I think you start Justin Fields. I think he's the best quarterback on this team right now. And I think he gives this team, if not more, then at the very least, just as good of a shot to win football games. And I think it's more. But, let me know what you think in the comments on that one. Move to the running back position. David Montgomery was very good last year, took that step forward that they needed him to take, and he did, and I think he will continue to play well. I think he's good for this offense. I think he runs the ball hard. It makes tons of sense. I really, really like David Montgomery. Fantasy-wise, I like him as well. I'm not sure he gets to where he was last year. I think he was the 4th ranked running back in fantasy. I don't think he quite gets that high. I don't think he's a top 5 running back. Top 10? I think you could make a case for that for sure. Tariq Cohen should be back, should be fully healthy, and adds a little bit of dynamic to this offense. He can definitely do things that David Montgomery cannot. He does things that no one else on this team realistically can do. Damian Williams comes in after opting out last season. I think he's a very, very quality depth running back. I think he's absolutely the number 2 option in the running game and the number 2 option in the passing game. So realistically, for those reasons, and with Tariq Cohen coming back, you could even see David Montgomery maybe getting pushed to the top 15 for running backs, which is still an RB1 in my types of leagues. Either way, Khalil Herbert drafted 6th round. He will be the 4th running back on this team, I believe. I think those 4 guys make the team, and those 4 are the running backs. Everyone else will not likely make this team. Move to the tight end position. Jimmy Graham's still there. As far as I can recall off the top of my head, they can absolutely cut him and save a bunch of money against the cap. I'm not sure if that makes sense or not. I honestly think he's just a solid weapon for them to have around. A little too much fantasy talk here, but I think Cole Kmet owners and people that really like Cole Kmet as a tight end, I think will lament Jimmy Graham this year and be very upset that he is still there. But realistically, I think in real life football, he gives this team a better shot, and he's just a very good weapon for this team. JP Hotz is still there. Jake Butt comes in. Actually, he was, undrafted guy, but he was touted. I believe he was undrafted. He was touted. He had a lot going for him, and he looked really good before tearing his ACL. I think he was Michigan, I believe, off the top of my head. But I honestly don't expect him to make this team either. We'll see. We'll move to the offensive line. Again, a little bit of turnover, but realistically, I think this offensive line can be just as good, if not maybe better than it was last season. It was very good for years, and then just it happens. They just got old. Same thing happened with Pittsburgh Steelers. They get a little bit older. You got to turn it over. And Tevin Jenkins, I think, is fantastic. I really, really like Tevin Jenkins. He has played left. He did play left tackle a little bit in college, but mostly he was a right tackle. So we'll see. He should be okay moving back over there. I'm not super, super concerned about that. Jermaine Ifedi comes in. Elijah Wilkinson comes in. Cody Whitehair and James Daniels are very, very good tandem in the interior right there. So realistically, they can help in a lot of different ways. They can help with the other guard spot. They can help with the tackle spot. If there is a weakness, it might be at right tackle. Larry Borum comes in the 5th round from Missouri, I believe, where he played left tackle, I believe. So maybe he's their swing guy. Latavius Simmons and Arlington Hambright, couple 7th round dart throws last year. You just want one of those guys. Realistically, you want one of those guys to be, a quality backup for this team. So not a bad unit on the offensive line there. And like I said, I think having Justin Fields in the backfield helps alleviate those guys a fair amount, because he can take off and run. He can scramble. He can create for himself, which Andy Dalton and Nick Foles cannot. Period. Wide receivers are going to play a huge role in how this team looks moving forward. By wide receivers, I just mean Allen Robinson, realistically, because Darnell Mooney is going to be a part of this team. They were talking about trading Anthony Miller in the offseason. We'll see. I don't think that happens. Daz Newsome comes in the 6th round, who I really, really like. I do really like Daz Newsome. Broke his clavicle in the OTAs. He will be ready to go for training camp, though, so that is not a huge concern there. Riley Ridley, former 4th round pick, Calvin Ridley's little brother. He's still there. Hasn't really taken any sort of step towards being a quality player in the NFL. We will see if he makes that step this year. I'm not even sure he'll have the opportunity. Damiere Byrd comes in, who's actually pretty underrated in my opinion. I think he'll be good for this team. But realistically, again, I'm going to go back to Allen Robinson. Franchise tag right now. If they are not able to get a deal done and bring him back, this team is going to be in a much worse position at the wide receiver spot, especially because they traded their 1st round pick next year, from what I recall, for the Justin Fields trade, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure they did. So there you go. There's this offense. Honestly, it's going to be weird. I'm not sure how it's going to operate. Obviously there's some big time changes when you go to a rookie quarterback that does different things. Then I guess you could say he's similar to Mitch Trubisky, but a better passer. So again, I don't know. Like I really don't know how this offense is going to look. I do expect that they're going to struggle a little bit. I really do. But it's just because it's a rookie quarterback, they're not too many rookie quarterbacks come in and take their team to the playoffs. Just doesn't really happen, or even winning teams. Even Justin Herbert wasn't a winning quarterback last year. So we'll see. But I do think that the future somewhat hinges on Allen Robinson coming back. If he's not back next season, I think this team is going to struggle again. But we'll see. Let's move over to the defense. Still a fairly good unit, but they're getting older. They are starting to get older. Akeem Hicks, Canadian, University of Regina. He's getting older, can probably still get the job done as long as he stays healthy. Bilal Nichols, I really, really like. I think he's a very, very good player. Mario Edwards, I really like as well. They're both young enough that there's no concerns with those two guys, but they're going to need a third because Akeem Hicks is not going to be on this team for too much longer, I don't think. And if his health starts to get away from him, then they're going to be a bit of a tough spot. They've always kind of struggled when Akeem Hicks isn't playing. You know, they've struggled. From what I recall, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'm sure Chicago Bears fans will let me know, but they have struggled on defense when Akeem Hicks isn't a part of it. Khalil Mack is obviously, I don't need to say too much about Khalil Mack. He's one of the best pass rushers in the game. I really, really, really like Khalil Mack. He's amazing. Robert Quinn did not really play to what they wanted him to be last year. We'll see if he does that this year. This defense will be in a much better spot if he does. If he doesn't, they're going to struggle. Jermaine Atacho comes in. He fits this defense. That's a good pickup. Travis Gibson. One of those two guys are going to have to step up if Robert Quinn does, kind of fall off. Their interior linebackers are still in a great spot, in my opinion. I think Roquan Smith right there with Khalil Mack, one of the best in the game. I think that Roquan Smith is probably a top 5, maybe top 7 linebacker in the game right now. Danny Trevathan can still get the job done. As far as I can recall off the top of my head, I think he's kind of put those injury concerns on the back burner that he had in Denver. From what I can recall, I could be wrong there. Maybe he's hurt a bunch, but I think he's kind of put those injury concerns on the back burner. Yeah, played full 16 games last year, 112 total tackles. So they're very, very good at inside linebacker. Joel, I'm not even going to try to butcher his name, but 4th round pick in 2018. I think that he's a quality depth guy, and he could be the heir apparent to Danny Trevathan, who's getting a little bit older. Christian Jones comes in from the Lions. He's a quality depth guy as well. Safeties are in a okay spot, I suppose. Tayshaun Gibson comes in. He's a little bit long in the tooth. Eddie Jackson, he's starting to get up there. Realistically, and Deion Bush just is okay. Never really took that step, but I think they're going to need a guy at safety. I'm a big proponent of having a quality safety. I think it makes defenses overall much better when you have a guy you can rely on. Especially for me personally, I like a center fielder out there. I really, really do. I think a good quality free safety goes a long way in the NFL. That's my personal opinion. Jalen Johnson is absolutely a guy at corner. He should have been a 1st round pick, slipped to them in the 2nd. That was a fantastic get for the Bears. Desmond Trufant is not a guy anymore. He's a quality depth guy, but he is not a guy anymore. Artie Burns, they are hoping is that guy. Former 1st round pick for the Steelers. This is, I think, his 2nd year. He got re-signed back with the Bears. They're hoping that he can be that guy. He's still young enough to take that step. Thomas Graham Jr., I really like that draft pick. I think that he could be a guy. He's going to need some grooming. He's going to need to get there. Another 6th round pick is Duke Shelley. He could maybe get there. They do have some pieces, but realistically, in all honesty, I just think that they have pieces in places on offense and defense, but overall, I think they're going to struggle on offense and defense. I think against the run, they'll be okay. But against the pass, it's going to be a tough one. They're going to have a tough time. And that's just how I kind of see it. And again, I think Bears fans are going to be mad at me. But let's go over, check out what I'm projecting them to do in 2021. All right, obviously you see it there on your screen, 5-12. I do not expect the Bears to be a very good team this year. I think that 5 to 1 on your money number there is very generous. I think that the Vikings are head and shoulders a better team than the Bears. I think Bears fans are going to be upset with me and they're going to let me know in the comments, but I just do not think that they're there. They've been 8-8 the past 2 seasons with a turnover on the offensive line and a rookie quarterback who I think starts all 17 games. I think should start all 17 games. I think they struggle a little bit. They're going to have a coaching change. And realistically, if all of this comes to fruition that I am projecting, you want to lose as many games as you can. I'm a Bengals fan. I just said the same thing about the Detroit Lions. You're going to want to, do you really want to be meddling in mediocrity again, Bears fans? Because you are not going to the playoffs regardless. And if any Bears fan puts a single comment saying that the Bears are a playoff team, you are wrong and you know it. So do you really want to just meddle in mediocrity? I don't. Like, realistically, it's okay. Just be a bad team. Rebuild. You now have your quarterback of the future. You have your left tackle of the future. You're hoping that you got some wide receivers if Allen Robinson comes back, Darnell Mooney, Daz Newsome. You got a running back. You got some pieces on defense. Like, you're going to have to rebuild a little bit, especially on defense, in my opinion. So let me know. Let me know in the comments. Bring it on. It is what it is. Let's blow through the schedule here, because I don't want to take up too much of your time on what I think is going to be a bad team. Week 1 against the Rams on the road. No chance they win that game. I'm sorry. They will not win that game. Prime time, not going to happen. Fans in the stands, brand new stadium. They're not winning that game. At home against the Cincinnati Bengals, that is a game that they could win, especially early in the season, especially at home. If this were later in the season, I would give my Bengals a better shot to win that game. But we'll see. That's going to, where they fall in the low, high, my. And realistically, 7-10, like, that's not bad for what they have as a team. Like, I got quite a lot of things could go right for this team. They could. If Justin Fields is absolutely the guy, they could win a couple more games than I'm projecting. But I don't think they do much better than 7-10. Like, it's just not really going to happen, I don't think. So that's a toss-up game against the Bengals, one that they absolutely could win. I think my Bengals get that win. I really, really do. But I'm sure Bears fans will disagree. On the road against the Browns, they're not going to get that win, period. At home against the Detroit Lions, I'm absolutely giving them a split against the Lions. I think they're similar teams. I think that the Bears could get that win. That could be their first win right there. Rookie, Justin Fields gets his first win at home against the Lions. That's how I see it. On the road against the Vegas Raiders, I think that the Raiders can get that win. Realistically, it's the first season in that stadium. They're going to be rocking. Vegas fans are pretty rabid for professional sports, as we see with the Golden Knights in hockey. So I think that the Raiders absolutely can and will get that win at home. On the road against the Green Bay Packers, I think the Packers and the Vikings both sweep the Chicago Bears. I'm sure Bears fans will disagree, especially with the Vikings, but that's just how I see it. On the road against the Bucs, they are not winning that game. At home against the San Francisco 49ers, they're not winning that game, but they might be able to give them a little bit of a push, but they're not going to win that game even at home. I'm sorry. The Niners are just a better team overall. On the road against the Steelers, another game that they could give them a push, and maybe that's a game they could steal. I absolutely do not think that the Steelers are going to be a super good team this year. I do not think that they win the division. I do not think they win as many games as they did last year. And that's a game that the Bears could potentially steal. I don't think they do. I think the Steelers win, but that's a potential low, high, my type of a game. Week 10 bye, doesn't matter for this team in my opinion. I do not think that they're going to make the playoffs. And again, no Bears fan can tell me they're making the playoffs. I'm sorry. You cannot convince me of it. Do your best in the comments, I suppose, but it's not going to happen. Coming out of the bye, week 11, at home against the Ravens. Ravens come into Chicago and get that win. On the road against the Detroit Lions, again, that's an absolutely winnable game. The Lions are going to be worse than the Bears, I think. So I think they could go into Detroit and get that win. I absolutely give them a shot. At home against the Arizona Cardinals, I mean, realistically, the Cards I think are going to be tough rough. They're going to have a hard time against the pass. But do I think a rookie Justin Fields can just, throw the ball over the yard against the Cards? especially in Chicago in December. I don't particularly think so. I think that the Cardinals can come in and get that win. On the road against the Packers, they're not beating the Packers. I'm sorry. At home against the Vikings, I don't think they're beating the Vikings. I'm sorry. It's just that I think the Vikings are a much better team than the Bears. On the road against Seattle, they're not going on the road and beating the Seattle Seahawks. It's just not happening. At home against the New York Giants, I think overall, I think these teams are relatively close. Relatively. I do think the Giants are the better team. And I think the Giants can absolutely come into Chicago and get that win. And I think they probably do. And then on the road against Minnesota, the only way they win that game on the road against Minnesota is if Minnesota's sitting players because they're already in the playoffs. I do think the Minnesota Vikings are a playoff team. I think they're a threat to win this division. I do not think the Bears are a threat to win this division. So we'll see what happens. But on the road, if that's a must-win game for the Vikings, which it probably is, I think the Vikings get that win. So let me know what you think in the comments. It is what it is. I just do not think that the Chicago Bears are going to be a very good team this year. And that's okay. That's okay. And I think that, realistically, Bears fans should buy in to a rebuild. Buy into being a bad team for a bit. It is what it is. You've just been mediocre for however many years. Aren't you sick of it? Just be a bad team. And, have some coaching turnover. You have your quarterback already. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm not really sure how Bears fans are going to react. So there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments. Put it in there. Bring on the hate because I really do feel like it's coming. But let me know what you think in the comments. There's your breakdown for the 2021 Chicago Bears.